Good. So first of all, Pesach is here. We got to get ready, and really, I've given this class many times already, every year, and really the title is to emphasize that Pesach cleaning is really actually a lot easier than we think it is. A lot of people use Pesach as an excuse to do their spring cleaning, which, if that's what you want to do, great, but don't blame it on Pesach. And once we understand what we're actually obligated to do, I'm not sugarcoating it, it's work, it's a lot of work, but a lot of times, a lot of things that people generally do for Pesach is not actually needed. So I think it's an important reminder to go through, we'll go through every part of the kitchen, every part of the rest of the house, and just give all the basic backgrounds that you need, as if it was the first Pesach you ever made. I'm sure for most of you it's not the first Pesach, but still always important, even to create the context to ask questions. Like if you have specific questions that you weren't sure about this year, or some new appliance that you weren't sure how to handle, feel free to interrupt me at any time with your own questions, but we'll have definitely time at the end. So first of all, just to start with an idea, we say the night of Seder, we have the 4 sons. Remember? 4 sons? What does the Rasha say? You nailed it. It's as if you did Pesach last week. You know so well. Ma ha'avoda hazot lachem. What's this avoda that you're doing? Who's he talking to? Why is he so bothered? You would think, compared to the other chagim, I would think if I was the Rasha, I would ask that question on Sukkot. We're outside in the Canadian cold with soup that was hot 5 seconds ago, but now isn't hot anymore. It's ice cold. So what's this? What I don't need this for. Let me go inside to the warm. What do I need it for? But Pesach, you have the finest dishes on your table. You have nicer wine than you have the rest of the year. You have delicious food coming up. It's the Seder is awesome. So why is he so antagonistic, so argumentative? Ma, avoda hazot lachem. What are you doing? So some of the Mefarshim, my Rebbe, Rosh Weiss, in his Agadah, he explains, who he's talking to? He's talking to his parents, his mom and his dad, that the 2 weeks before Pesach, all they were doing is kvetching. Pesach is coming. We have to clean. It's so expensive. Oh, what a schlep. Let's go away this year. We can't go away. Okay, we'll stay. Next year we have to go away. It's, all that kvetching. So then your kids come to the Seder, Ma ha'avoda hazot. What do I need this for? All this kvetching. And by the time you get there, you're such a shmata. Right? How many times have we remembered the mother of the house is falling asleep on the couch? That's the biggest bracha in Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora, is you have the second Seder, because you get to sleep off all your Pesach exhaustion the first day of Yom Tov, and you have the second Seder to enjoy yourself, right? But it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. If you're overworked like that before Pesach, again, it's a lot of work, but we always have to keep in mind there's a concept in halacha called a chorma that is ba lidei kula. That sometimes there's stringencies. We have to realize there's no stringencies that really exist in a vacuum. You're always deciding one thing over another. And there's actually a bona fide halacha in Shulchan Aruch, Jewish code of law, Shulchan Aruch Siman Taf, Kuf, Chaf, Tes, Sif, Aleph, Chayav Adam, a person is obligated, Liyot Sameach V'tov Lev B'moed. You have to be happy on the Moed. This refers to Pesach, to Shavuos, to Sukkot. Your entire household, your wife, you, children, everyone has to be happy. The Mishnah Berurah Chavetz Chaim, he says, "V'hu mitzvahs aseh min haTorah." This is a biblical d'oraisa mitzvah. You got to be happy. So I'm not going to say, well, if you need to be happy, just don't do any Pesach cleaning. Obviously not. You have to keep all the halachos. But sometimes when you're doing these added stringencies, added chumras that come at an expense of getting to Pesach with a smile on your face, so we have to recalibrate and understand what we need to do and what we would like to do in an ideal world, and understand what our capacity is in any given year. Okay? So getting right to it. Let's start with a quick background of what Chametz is and how we deal with it. Number 1, Chametz is a mixture of any of the 5 grains. Browse. You know that acronym? Browse. B-R-O-W-S. B is for barley. R is for rye, O is for oats, W is for wheat, and S is for spelt. Those 5 grains could, number 1, be chametz, and number 2, those are the only 5 grains that you could fulfill your mitzvah of matzah with. The first night of Pesach is a mitzvah d'oraisa, the second is a mitzvah d'oraisa, to eat matzah. They have to be from those 5 grains. That means the exact same 5 grains that is the worst kosher prohibition in entire Judaism? Right? What's worse, eating chametz on Pesach or eating a cheeseburger? Chametz on Pesach is worse. Now don't say, the rabbi said that I could eat a cheeseburger, right? Don't clip this, right? But only one's a kares, only one's an isser hana. Cheeseburger, okay, milk and meat if it's cooked together, it's isser hana, but it's not a kares. It's worse. So it could either be the worst dietary mistake a Jew can make, or it could be a mitzvah d'oraisa to eat it as matzah. The same ingredients. I think it's an important lesson to keep in mind over Pesach, that it's the lesson of potential. That the very thing that has such potential for horrible things could also be elevated to be a mitzvah d'oraisa. It's the same. It's water and the 5 grains. The difference is time. How long do you leave it there for? Is it become chametz, or do you preserve it and be matzah? But that is what chametz is: the 5 grains mixed with water and left for 18 minutes to rise. So that is going to be considered chametz. What do we do with chametz? We have a little bit of a double-edged sword. The way we get rid of chametz. Number 1. We do bittul, which means you nullify it. Kol chamira b'chamira, it's all part of and you burn it the next morning. It's all part of nullifying it. But we also do bedikas chametz. You search out the night before Pesach with the candle. You go around your house and search for any chametz. Why do we do both? The Gemara in Pesachim says that we don't want to rely just on the bedika, the searching out, because maybe if you search out the chametz, you'll miss something. You'll miss something, and you'll be tempted when you find it on Pesach, and you'll eat it. So we want to make sure that you also nullify it. But nullifying it, we're afraid, isn't going to be sincere because it's just words, right? We believe in the words, but we also want to proactively make sure that we're clearing our space from chametz. But with the bittul and the bedika together, we are confident that we get rid of our chametz. We also do another thing, a relatively modern creation, which is the mechira of the chametz, the selling of the chametz. Also an important thing to take care of. You could take care of that now. Have one less thing to panic about 3 days before Pesach. Call Rav Amiel, get the mechira done. So it's just done, checked off the list. You did it already?
Yes.
Of course you did it already. I did not do it yet.
I did it.
Yeah, right. Okay, into the first half of the very important one is cleaning. So we'll do, half the class, maybe less than half this year will be cleaning, and we'll get to kashering the kitchen. But for cleaning the house, maybe the week prior to Pesach, you're clear. Maybe 2 weeks because you need a week to cook. But you have to clean the kitchen, clean the house, and make sure it is checked for chametz. So. Again, to emphasize, this isn't spring cleaning, but there are 2 big revelations that when we say these halachos, it really is a game changer to how much effort and how hard it is, or maybe not so hard, to clean your house for chametz. And the first big revelation is that there's a halachic concept in Shulchan Aruch which tells us about a makom she'ein machnisin bo chametz, a place in your own home that you don't bring chametz to. Right? So, upstairs, do you eat food in your bedrooms upstairs? If the answer is no, so guess what? Your entire upstairs already, without doing any work, is checked and kosher for Pesach. Because it's your whole upstairs. If you don't eat food upstairs, if you don't sit in bed with a sandwich or watching TV before you go to sleep, and if you do, not judging you, but if you don't, right, then your whole upstairs is considered checked for Pesach. That could apply to the basement. It could apply to your den. It could apply to your garage. If you don't eat chametz in those rooms year round, so you don't have to clean. It might not look clean, it might be dusty. You might really need a spring cleaning, which you could do the week after Pesach if you want. But for Pesach cleaning, as long as it's a makom she'ein machnisin bo chametz, it's a place that you don't bring chametz into, so it does not have to be specially checked for Pesach. The Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim says, if you have little kids at home, all bets are off, right? Right? There's a discussion in the Gemara in Pesachim of if you check one place in your house, and then you see you check one side of your house, and then you see like a rat, an akbar, take chametz into the house, into that side of the house. Do you have to recheck it or not? Right? So like, who has rats running around their house? But the modern iteration of a rat is a toddler. Same thing, right? Because you check one side of the house, and then my little son Alicia is bringing a baby. You never know where things could go. Every parent has a right to be pragmatic and rational. But yes, for us in our house, I know the kids' rooms definitely need to be checked for Pesach. because even though we don't condone parentally eating in your rooms, but we also know that it happens sometimes, especially before, after, whoever decided, I guess it was Haman, but whoever decided that Purim should be a month before Pesach had like a Jewish sense of humor. Right before we clean the house, let's have everyone send each other like wafers, right? And crunchy cookies and homemade babka. Let's just fill everyone's houses with chametz just before you start cleaning it. So the kids all hoard their collection and keep it in the room. So definitely, at least I can speak from our home, the kids' rooms need to be checked for Pesach, and even our basement, would need to. But each family, every family knows themselves. If you don't have kids in the home, so boom, 85-90% of your house is cleaned already for Pesach. If you aren't bringing food to the bedrooms, to the garage, to the basement, just be realistic and think, is it a place that I don't bring chametz into? If it's a place you don't bring chametz into, you do not need to check for Pesach. It is pre-checked, right? You go to the border, you have a pre-check, CSA pre-check. So there's rooms in our homes which are already pre-checked for Pesach, as long as it's in this category of makom she'ein machnisim bo chametz, a place that we don't bring chametz into. That's the first revelation, which changes a lot. People think you have to do your whole house, check your whole house for Pesach. It's not always true. Decide, think room by room. Is that a makom she'ein machnisim bo chametz? Do we really bring chametz into our garage, into our den, into our playroom, into the upstairs, into the basement? And if you can knock off 50, 60, 70% of your house, then it's all pre-checked, which is great. Okay? Fine, that's the first revelation. The second revelation is defining what exactly chametz is. So we already said chametz is one of the grains that are mixed with water and rises for 18 minutes. But if it is non-edible, or if it is edible but less than a kazayis, so you can't eat it on Pesach, but there's no biblical prohibition of owning such chametz over Pesach. One of those two things. It's non-edible. It's non-edible, or it's less than a kazayis, which we'll discuss what a kazayis is. But if it's not one of those two, in other words, if it's not bigger than a kazayis and edible, then you don't actually have to be checking for it for Pesach, right? So, are you looking for crumbs? It's nice to, but it's not obligated to be looking for little crumbs. Okay, so again, in my house, I definitely need to take off the cushions from the couch and check under them, because who knows, it could be the entire challah from the previous. I have a 4-year-old at home, okay? So you never know what's under the couch, right? But for normal people, in other words, for families that don't have toddlers, so again, when I say, do you bring chametz in? If you're worried that there might be a crumb behind the fridge that you keep in the basement, so that's considered a place that you don't bring chametz, because that's not considered chametz. You have to check for, because it's not edible and bigger than a kazayis. What's a kazayis? A kazayis is 30 grams. One Oreo is 13 grams. How do I know that? I looked it up about 20 minutes ago, so I could have a good example. But an Oreo cookie is 13 grams. That means one kazayis is double the size, a little more than double the size of an Oreo. And if it is that size, but it's not edible, in other words, a dog, not today's pet dogs. Those are very picky because they have their fancy, pet food. But a wild dog, an animal, squirrel, would it eat it? Would it eat it? Okay? So if it wouldn't eat it, so it's been behind your fridge or under your oven for the past 6 months, no living thing is eating that. So even though it's bigger than double of an Oreo, right? Double the 30 grams, one kazayis, so that's still not considered chametz that you have to worry about when it comes to Pesach cleaning. So these are two revelations. Revelation number one is think about your own home, and maybe there's a bunch of rooms in your home that are already checked because they're considered makom she'ein machnisim bo chametz, a place that you don't want chametz into, especially when you keep in mind what type of chametz you're actually looking for, which is larger than a kazayis, double the size of an Oreo, and also edible by a wild dog, let's say by a squirrel, right? So if you have to so what rooms do you not generally bring in that type of chametz? Anything that you don't is already considered pre-checked. So right there, even if you do have to check those rooms for chametz, I think you could do the outside of your kitchen. Your entire house should take, I would say, 3 hours of hard work. If you're being lazy and checking your phone and maybe watching TV at the same time, 6 hours. But a half a day of work takes care of everything outside your kitchen. Not bad, right? Huh? Okay. Huh?
Perfect.
It's not bad, right? It's not bad. But I'm not saying it's not work. You have to go each room. Do we usually bring chametz into this room? And if it is, you have to check for chametz and make sure there's no chametz which is the no chametz, which is prohibited to have over Pesach. But just with a little bit of mindfulness, maybe 3-4 hours of work, you really are taking care of everything in your house outside your kitchen. Okay, fine. Your car. In our families, our car is considered a makom shemachnisin bo. It's a place that we bring chametz into. The kids always don't have enough time to eat breakfast in the morning. They bring the food in the car. So, do you have to check your car? Yes, I would think you have to check it. If you don't have kids at home, do you eat in the car or do you not eat in the car? If you don't eat in the car, if you do not eat in the car, you don't have kids at home or grandkids at home, I would say your car is pre-checked. Okay, it's fine. Okay, you have the groceries, you take in, you take out. So look in your trunk and make sure there's not like a loaf of bread that you forgot back there. But generally speaking, if you're not eating in the car, it's considered a makom she'ein machnisin bo chametz if you're not eating in the car, and those are checked. People do like to take the opportunity to clean their car. Again, that's spring cleaning. That I'm guilty of. I clean my car already, got it cleaned already, and now the kids know no food in our cars until after Pesach. So it is a good opportunity, but just keep in mind that if you're not eating in your car, it also could be possibly considered something which is already pre-checked. Okay, so now we walk into the kitchen. So we just cleaned, I would say 80% of the home. If you have a big kitchen, maybe 75% of the home. Okay, and I would say around 3 hours of good, hard, mindful work. Now everything is done except for the kitchen. When it comes to the kitchens, so let's do a quick background when it comes of the background concepts of what it means to kasher. And the reason why you didn't come, I know you came for a Pesach here, you want to hear oven do this, sink do that, countertops do this. But if I give you a little bit more of an educational background of the basic premise of what it means to kasher anything, so even if I miss one thing, you'll be able to understand the background concepts and be able to apply it to even more examples than we'll be able to give in one sitting, which is like this. There is a huge fundamental concept which is rationally maybe difficult to comprehend nowadays, but it really is definitive for the entire kosher reality, which is a concept called tam keker. In other words, that we believe in something called bliot. What does that mean? That means we believe that anytime you cook something in a pot, the entire pot, the walls of the pot become saturated with the taste of whatever you cooked in that pot. Okay, this is the only reason. If this wasn't true, then you'd be able to take your chicken soup pot, pour it out, rinse it with water, hot water. Wouldn't matter. You're not allowed to do this, right? But this is what would have been if that idea wasn't true, and then have mac and cheese in the same pot. Rinse it out, and there would be no such thing as milchik or fleshik utensils. The only reason why there's milchik and fleshik utensils is because we believe in the halachic literature that has this concept of blios or bliot, which means the taste absorbed in the kelim, in the vessels. Okay, now what's important to understand about this concept of blios is that, you know how every food has an expiration date on the bottom? Milk, April, right? Whatever it is, every food has expiration. So we have an expiration date for all foods which are absorbed, the taste which is absorbed in the kelim. Now we don't use the expiration date because there's a difference between Torah law and rabbinic law when it comes to this. We follow the rabbinic law because they added this on later for very understandable reason. But from the Torah perspective, and this has, what I'm explaining, has a lot of significance when it comes to kashering our kitchens for Pesach. But from the Torah law, after 24 hours has passed, one entire day, so all the taste which is absorbed in the kli, in the chicken soup pot, is considered expired and no longer halachically significant. That means, based on Torah law, I could cook my chicken soup, pour it out, set my timer, 24 hours later, and 1 minute, 24 hours, 1 minute, I could cook my mac and cheese and eat my mac and cheese, and then 24 hours later, cook chicken soup in that same pot, no problem, from a Torah perspective. But the rabbi said that kli, Eina ben yomo, atu ben yomo, it would if you can imagine every fork and every bowl and every pot in your house having to keep a calculation, a 24-hour, like its own little timer for every little, too confusing. So they said, you know what? Separated it all, and even a kli which hasn't been used for 24 hours, we have to treat as if it's dedicated to either milchiks or fleshiks, chametz or not chametz, and we can't play that game of waiting 24 hours and using the kli. So we don't play that game. That's a rabbinic law, and that's why kosher kitchens have to be double the size of a regular kitchen. That's why we have a milchik sink and a fleishik sink. That's why we have maybe 2 ovens, although 1 oven, you could also do a perfectly fine kosher kitchen with 1 oven. That's why we have milchik utensils and fleishik utensils, because the rabbis decided that they didn't want us to be utilizing this Torah law, and they made an extra safeguard in our kitchens to have 2 sides, milchiks and fleishiks. But what that means is after almost everything we kosher, step 1 is always going to be wait 24 hours, right? Wait 24 hours and then kosher. Why? Because if we wait 24 hours and then kosher, we're koshering rabbinically prohibited taste, which is absorbed. But if it's in the 24 hours, it's biblically prohibited. It's an isser, the taste that's absorbed is considered, it has daraisa significance, Torah significance. So in many ways, that's harder to kosher. So we first wait to the Torah expiration date of the blios, of the absorbed taste, and then we kosher. So almost everything we discuss, step 1 is going to be wait 24 hours and then. Okay, so applying this, one other thing that comes out from the basics of koshering is how do you kosher anything? How do you kosher anything? There's one basic halacha. And it comes up from the Torah when the Jewish people fought against Midian, and we won. So now there was all this extra utensils that we had access to, the booty of the war. So the Torah tells us in Parshas Matos, that kol asher yavo be'esh tavo be'esh, anything that was used with not, because we just conquered the Midyanim. The Midyanim didn't keep kosher. So if we wanted to use their pots and pans, we had to kosher them. So the Torah says anything that they used with non-kosher, with fire, so then I want you to kosher it with fire. Anything that they use with not kosher, with water, in other words, it was a pot that they used to cook, so you use water to kosher. In other words, any way the vessel absorbed the non-kosher taste, it's that same mechanism that we use to purge the taste out of the non-kosher vessel. This is known in Talmudic literature as kibolo kach polto. The way absorbed, that is the strategy how to get the absorbed taste out. Okay, so that's the rule of thumb. So anytime you ask, how do I kosher this in my kitchen? Well, how did you use it with chametz in your kitchen? So if we could just understand how it got the chametz taste in it, so it's that same mechanism that we use to get the chametz taste out of it. That's the background. It's fascinating. All our kosher laws for koshering in the Torah emanate from the war against Midian, like I just mentioned. Everything we know about koshering is from that little section in the Torah that talks about the war, what to do with the booty, essentially, the pots and pans of the Midian homes after we conquered them. This year, something fascinating is taking place in the past 6 months. A lot of our chayalim come from religious homes, right? This unprecedented amount of religious soldiers that are fighting battles. There hasn't been a war in Israel that had this high percentage of religious coming from Dati homes, soldiers in the IDF. So they're in Gaza for months and months and months. Right? We today we're on Kildare. Thank you. We had hundreds of people were there for the Suiza family coming back. They lost their son, who was fighting in the IDF. He was in Gaza for more than 5 months without leaving, without coming back to Israel proper, right? For 5 months in there. He lost his life, so we were there with Israeli flags, and it was very, very touching, very moving experience. But if you're in there for 5 months, where are you setting up shop? Where are you eating? In the homes of Gazans. Literally, the soldiers, the battalions, the units, they set up a little base camp they walk into an apartment building that's been cleared out, and that's where they sleep. They use those beds. My sister, my nephew's in the IDF. She said at the beginning, because the soldiers aren't allowed to go in with their phones. They leave their phones in Israel and they go in. So the officer is supposed to check in officially every day, but it doesn't always happen. But every so often, parents get a random call on their phone from a random Palestinian number that they don't recognize. And you could tell by the area code that it's coming from Gaza. They pick it up, Shalom Imam, Ma Shlomech, because they find a house line that's still connected, and all the boys take turns calling their families, right? But where are they cooking? They're cooking in the Palestinian kitchens. So what do? They kosher the kitchen first. right? So it's unbelievable. All the kosher laws of kashering we know from the war against Midian, and now they're being vivified and relived through the war against Hamas. It's just, it's an unbelievable thing. But anyways, using that idea of kibolo katpolto, that memory mechanism that it absorb taste is the same mechanism that we use to take out the taste. So now it's really just a game of how to apply it to every aspect of the kitchen. So let's go one by one. The oven, how do you kasher the oven? Step one, wait 24 hours. That's why everyone has lived up. Usually we think of the best time to kasher a kitchen is right after Shabbos. Why? Because if you wait till after Shabbos, I hope, we've guaranteed that you haven't used anything in your kitchen with anything hot with hot water. Why? Because you're not allowed to use the hot water from your faucet. You're not allowed to turn on your oven on Shabbos. You can't use heat on Shabbos. So you automatically have it built in 24 hours of idle, non-usage of your kitchen, so it's all ready to kasher. Okay? So step one, you wait 24 hours for your oven. How did your oven become chametz flavored? Because you cooked chametz in it. So it's by ways of the air, the heat in the oven. So let's kasher it with that same mechanism. How do you do that? So there's an old way and a new way. The old way is you click the self-clean button. But many rabbis have been sued over the years. Not literally, but there's a new name for that. 4 years ago, rabbis referred to self-clean as self-destruct. Because it breaks a lot of ovens. Right? So usually, the way we now advise to do it is there's all these fancier names that they have for self-clean, like this one that uses like steam clean. That doesn't work. All that stuff doesn't work. So really, the best way to do it is, again, you clean your oven well. You focus on the accordion on the side of the door. You clean it as well as you could. Use caustic spray sometimes. So that, again, that's a great mechanism also for little hard to reach places, because it makes it inedible even for a dog, even for a squirrel. So you wipe down the areas as best as you could. You wait 24 hours since the last use of heat, and then you turn it on its highest setting. So for most ovens, that's 550. Okay, my oven is 550. You turn it to 550, you let it preheat. Once it's preheated, you leave it on for an hour. Turn it off, let it cool down, it's kashered. Okay? Because you just that's the maximum heat. So it absorbs chametz maximum on that heat. So kabalo kafpota, use the same mechanism that you use to absorb it, you use to purge the taste. Good? That's the oven. Okay. The racks inside of the oven, you could clean well the same way and just leave them in the oven during that process.
You're not supposed to.
Not during the self-clean. I'm not up here telling people to use the self-clean. If you want to use the self-clean, use it at your own risk. I'm saying to turn your oven to the maximum temperature, to 550, and leave it in there. Leave your racks in. We do that all the time. Anytime we turn our oven to 550 to cook anything, our racks are in there. So it's the same thing. So you leave it in there. Fantastic. Anyone have a warming drawer at home? You have a warming drawer? So we allow kashering in the warming drawer. You keep it. You clean it well. You wait 24 hours. Then we turn on its highest temperature. You buy you know what a sterna is. The caterers use it under. The caterers have like those serving things, and under the serving thing there's something called a sterna, and you light it. It lasts for like 2 hours, and it's like a heat source. It keeps like the food at bar mitzvahs and weddings hot from underneath. Okay, so Yaakov has some. You could talk to him. And while it's on the highest heat, you put the sterna and you crack the warming drawer open. Otherwise, you could break it. So you crack it open just to leave some place for the heat to go. But when it's on and the sterna is in there, to make sure it's getting a little above its maximum heat, so then you could use a warming drawer on Pesach. Okay? Sometimes, huh?
Where do you buy those?
Don't know.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, Shulchan.
Call my wife. She'll know. Huh?
Pretty sure Shulchan.
There we go.
Shulchan? Oh, that's smart.
Okay? So there's that. But again, if you don't have a warming drawer, I don't have any other application for that. That's the only application is the warming drawer. The warming drawer doesn't really get hot enough to proper kosher, so we just want to make sure to dip a little bit above its maximum heat. That's what the sterna does. Fine. The bottom of ovens sometimes have drip pans, so clean really well and cover it with tin foil. Okay, you don't really hard to kosher. Just clean and cover. You don't really need to kosher because food's not going on it. Food is just falling on it, so just cover it. Microwave oven. So happens to be I'm a fan of getting new microwaves for Pesach. I'm going to give you how to clean it, and if it's a financial concern or a space concern, it is possible to clean it, to kasher it for Pesach, but generally you can get a microwave for like $40, $30-$40. It's not a lot, so people are like, where do you, maybe I'm completely wrong about the prices, I'm not the shopper in the family, but I would say best practice, you get a new microwave for Pesach. If for any reason that's hard, this is how to kasher it, and it's very easy. With these, I always suggest styrofoam cup, because styrofoam cups will never melt. Don't tell on me, we have a green committee in the show. Right, to keep the ozone layer and it's good. Okay, but I use styrofoam cups for this at least. And what you do is, again, you clean it well with spray or with some cleaning spray, and you have to focus especially on the fan openings on the side. Every microwave in the side is going to have a fan inside and little openings, which, so that inside, make sure it's clean of muck or food. You wait 24 hours since the last time you used it with hot, and you fill up a styrofoam cup with water. You put it wherever you want on the glass plate, and you press go. And you keep it in there for, I would say, 3.5 minutes, and the whole thing is going to fill up with steam. How did your microwave become chametz? With steam. So we kasher it with steam. It's the same exact mechanism, the same way, right? So we put the water in, and we kasher it. It fills up with smoke. It's not dangerous. I've done this many times. Never broke on me. And it fills up with smoke, and you wait till, half the cup evaporates into steam. You open it, and then it's kashered. The one thing that's not kashered is the glass plate which is under, because this is one of the debates between Ashkenazic Jews and Sephardic Jews. Any Sephardim in the room? No? All Ashkenaz? Okay. So we hold that you can't kasher glass, which means you could either cover that plate very well and continue using it, double cover it with something which is microwave safe, obviously not tin foil. Sorry, Ashkenaz, sin foil. Okay, I'm just joking, right? But you cover it well. But even better, you could just take that glass plate out and put it away for Pesach. Either get a new one. I don't know where you would find a new one, but you could actually use any plate on Pesach. You just have to balance it in the middle. It's a little harder to use, not so fun to use in the microwave. But you can even put any plate in the middle and have the food centered, and it just takes the plate that you put in and makes it go round and round. Okay, so it's doable. But make sure on Pesach, not to put any food directly on the glass plate. For Sephardim, where glass is, not is kasher, it doesn't need to be kasher. It's like one extreme to the next. So for Sephardim, they'd be able to technically keep their glass plate in their oven, in their microwave. So that is the microwave taken care of. Okay, what's next? I guess we should have done this right after the ovens, but the stovetop, right? The stovetop. So there's different types of stovetops. So number one, a gas range or electric stovetops that have grates, right? Grates to put your pots on. So again, you wait 24 hours, you clean them, wait 24 hours, and then what you could do is if you do self-clean, which I never told you to do, you could put them in the oven for yourself clean, but that's also an added warning not to do that. Even if you do self-clean, some people will experience an overheating of the inside to the extent that the oven could break if you add extra metal heat conductor inside the oven. So the best thing to do is you just turn your stovetop on after you waited 24 hours. After they're clean, you waited 24 hours, you turn them on high. You turn them on high so it's getting everything, and you leave it, maybe not all the burners at once because maybe it'll overheat the whole stovetop, but you turn, let's say, two at a time on their highest, and you leave it on there for 25-30 minutes on the highest, and now we're basically guaranteeing that as hot as it was during the year, it's getting that heat as well now, and that is kashering it. So that works for electric stovetops or gas range stovetops. That's until it's glowing, that will work just fine. And the areas in between you cover with tin foil, like the bottom area, because that doesn't get hot enough to really kasher, and hot food could have fallen on there on Pesach. Not on Pesach, hot chametz could have fallen on there, and there's no real way to kasher that properly. So you cover it, and the burners are still exposed, and that works really well. Where things get a little bit tricky is what we call the glass tops. Probably a lot of us have those, right? Anyone have glass tops? Yeah. Very, very common now to have glass tops. So again, unfortunately, this is also a little bit of problem for the Ashkenazim. For Sephardim, it's a lot easier. But for Ashkenazim, there's no real good way to rely on to kasher. So I have 3 different eitzas, suggestions for you if you have glass top. Suggestion number 1 is you go on Amazon and you order trivets, which are cast iron. cast iron trivets, you try to get the ones with the lowest feet as possible, and obviously make sure that there's no rubber on the bottom, and if there is, you take it off. And you simply put those on top for the entire Pesach, right? And then you put your pots and pans on top of those. You're basically, it's not going to work as well because there's a little bit of a separation between the heat source and your pots and pans, but you're just elevating, and there's going to be, I don't know, a couple centimeters of airspace between the glass top and where the pots are. Okay, and you try to get a trivet which has the most empty open space on top, because you don't want to crack the glass top. If you just cover the glass top with tin foil, your glass top will definitely break, it'll crack, and it'll be a headache to replace. So just lifting the trivet creates enough airspace and flow that the heat is enough place to escape, and that works for Pesach. That's the first eitzah. Yes?
You have a, let's call it a pie plate made out of metal.
Pie plate?
Yeah, round plate, very low lip on it.
Yeah.
It'll be probably higher than a trivet. Flip it over and you put it on there.
Yeah, so what I'm afraid of that is because the pie, this is not a halachic concern, this is just a safety concern. So if the plate doesn't have any holes in it, what's great about a trivet is a trivet is usually like there's a design in it, and the design is like metal air, right? But a plate is completely covered. I'm just afraid that there's not enough place for the heat to come up, and it'll end up overwhelming the glass top and cracking it. That's my only concern.
Because I use like a cookie sheet for a bless on Shabbos like that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Well, of course, I don't think I have to have this internal pie. I have it
Right.
on medium.
Right. So I'd be concerned 8 days in a row of using it like that without giving a break. But essentially that's the same thing I'm saying, but the trivets will just give more space for the air to come out.
The trivets.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I've given this eitzah to many people. This is actually my own idea, but inspired by my brother. What he did based on his father-in-law, Mordechai Willig, is a very similar thing where he takes just 1 or 2 pennies and he puts them around the direct heat source, which again just creates a little bit of an air space between the top of the glass top and the bottom of the, right? Because the pennies just lift it. It's just like making legs. It's the same thing as a trivet, but it's just lifting it up. And that works also, but the pennies move. It's hard, so the trivet is always a great way of doing it. The other eitzah I have, there's only one eitzah, one other suggestion, which is there's a relatively new product which is brilliant. I know many people who use this now for their glass tops. I forget the exact product, what it's called, but if you need this, just email me. I'll respond with the link, and you should probably order it ASAP so it gets to you on time. But it's basically a rubber. It feels like material, and it's a cover for the glass top. It's actually seems to be, even non-Jews use this to keep the glass top looking clean and nice. And it's obviously it's not dangerous for the glass top, and it's, even though it feels like not paper, it feels like material, but it's graded for way higher heat. It's not a fire concern, way higher heat than your glass top will ever get it to be. So it's all safe, and it's basically you put that on top of your glass top and you use it as normal, and your pots and pans go straight on that. So that, I forget. I can email you the link. I can email it, but it's a website you order it on. But a lot of people are using that for Pesach for their glass tops. There's even a different product, different company, which is a similar idea, but it works for what's that type of top? Convection. Induction thing, yeah, induction. So induction, that what I just mentioned doesn't work, and the trivets won't work either, because you need the pots to be making contact with the top of the induction for the energy to flow and for the heat to be created. But they have a similar product, a different company made that same thing, a covering for the induction top, which allows it to still work, but again is that separation. So those are the best things to do for glass top on Pesach. I don't have any other brilliant ideas in terms of how to kasher. Yeah, thank you. Lo mein.
Loma.
Loma. Yeah, L-O-M-I. No, L-O-M-I.
Yeah.
Right. LOMI.com, or you put it into Google, LOMI. That's the company that makes those cloth coverings for the glass top, which is it's the best solution for glass tops because it's very easy to use. Okay, so that is, counters. Someone messaged me today, asked me about their countertop. Could I kasher it? Could I not kasher? Because some materials you could kasher, some materials you can't. Any material that you can't kasher, you cover. And even if you could kasher it, some people like covering. It's easier The water makes a huge mess. I'll review how to kasher the counters. But sometimes it's easier just to cover it. Some people have custom covers. Some businesses that come and they measure and they make ones that fit perfectly for your countertops. Or you could buy those stickers that peel off nicely. You can even cover a double covering of tin foil, double covering just because tin foil kind of rips pretty easily. So you want a second layer. So you could cover covering, even if you could kasher your countertops, there's nothing wrong with covering them. Sometimes it works better. So in terms of going through each product there's hundreds of different products now, and they're all different mixtures of different stone or stone and glass. Go to the CRC website. The OU also has a list of 10 pages long. You literally just search the exact material that you have, and it tells you if you could kasher it or you can't kasher it, right? So what happens when you call your local Orthodox rabbi, Rabbi, could I kasher my countertop? This is the material. You know what he does? He goes to the CRC website and he looks up for you, which is fine. We're happy to do it. But there's so many resources, and it's like literally 7, 8, 9 pages of just product names of mica, marble can, just different ones, and every year obviously there's new products and it gets updated. So just look there if you know what your countertops are called, in like what the product is called, so you could look it up and find out if you could kasher it. Okay, if you could kasher it, here's how to do it. Number one, you wait 24 hours since the last time you used it with hot. Then you clean it. Clean it well. You could clean it with hot water if you want, but then that restarts your clock. So do that before. You can wait 24 hours and clean it well with a spray or with cold water. That's fine. That doesn't make you have to restart the 24-hour clock. Once you do it, you heat up water, either in a pot. I find the best way to do it is with a kettle. It takes a few times. I usually have 2 kettles running at the same time because it takes a few minutes for the kettle to reboil. You get the kettle to be boiling. I often like to open the kettle top, so like a rolling boil, the automatic stopper doesn't get activated, and you get to rolling boil. You unplug it, and right away you go to the counter. You can't just splash the whole counter and have it roll off the counter, because by the time it gets to the end, it's no longer hot enough to kasher. So you have to hold the kettle. That's why I like using a kettle, not a big pot, right? And you just hold it, you go like this. Boom, 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 boom. You finish the kettle, you dry it a little bit, you take the next kettle, you do it the same thing, and then you reboil both of them. And every part of your counter should be exposed to the direct stream. If you hold it a little high up, the direct stream has a little bit of a diameter, which makes it easier. You just kind of go like this through the whole counter, and that kashers it. It gets very wet. I would say the most important part, in my experience, is not to wear Crocs. Right, because Crocs have the hole. I have burned my feet a few times. So safety is you have to make sure kids aren't around. Is probably the most dangerous part of kashering. The same thing applies to the sinks, assuming you have metal sinks. Again, if you have other new fancier material of sinks, again, look them up. There's different materials. Yeah.
But if you never put like a super hot pot on
Yeah.
on your counter,
Yeah.
do you have to use the hot water then? Or
So-
do you say like, I always put a trivet down
Yeah.
and put do I have to pour
So
it?
technically, what we're worried about is, I don't know, you're cutting something, hot chametz, and it kind of spilled on the counter and something like that. That's why spilling on the counter is tantamount now spilling water. It's called irui, spilling water, because food could have spilled. So yeah, technically I could conceive that the family is so careful all year round, they never put anything down. You're confident that, nothing hot off of a cutting board, even if it wasn't actual chametz, but chametz knife was cutting meat, and then the meat fell off the cutting board.
But the meat wouldn't be as hot as boiling water.
Right, but as long as the heat was yad solet, as long as the meat was yad soletispo, which means hot enough to recoil your hand, so then we need to kasher, and the way you kasher is with boiling water. Right, so that's where it comes. But yeah, I could conceivably say that a family says that we never fancy granites, we're so worried about food never touches our countertops. So then all of this would be a stringency, a celebrated stringency, because Pesach we take very seriously. And yes, I do think that no matter what, counters should either be covered or kashered. Okay, some people kasher then cover. Okay, if that's what your grandmother, Bubby did, and you want to do it, that's great. But if you're covering it properly, you don't also have to, kasher it first. Okay, the same thing applies to the sink. Like I just mentioned, you wait 24 hours, and you do the pouring of the water from a kettle, or a pot. The bottom of the sink, on each side, you have those nets, right? the best thing to do with those nets is to get new ones for Pesach. You put those away. You don't have to throw them out. You sell them with your chametz. It's just put away, and just get new ones. If they're all metal, some of the old-fashioned ones are all metal. You can kasher them, but it's just they get pretty nasty, and there's nooks and crannies, and they're not expensive. So order on Amazon. They'll be at your house within 24 hours. Type in the Rabbi Klayman code, you get 30% off. I'm just joking. That doesn't exist. But you order them on Amazon and you get new ones for Pesach. That is the best way to go about those little grates on the bottom of the sink for sure. Your hot water urn that you use usually for Shabbos. Huh? Don't kasher, do kasher. So like this. Usually, I would say you don't have to kasher. Okay?
I change water.
Huh?
I change it.
You have a new one for Pesach. Good. That's great. Do you need a new one for Pesach? There's a lot of family. Do I have to buy a new one? So if you generally, ask yourself the following thing. When you make oatmeal, we all eat oatmeal sometimes, right? In the past year, when you make oatmeal, do you put the bowl under and fill it right up, like yours truly, guilty as charged, right? Or do you put it in a cup, and you pour it in with a separate cup into your oatmeal? If you put the oatmeal directly under, which is totally normal, right? Normal thing to do. So then, best to have just a new, because that steam, which is connecting the oatmeal to the faucet, has halachic significance. It's very close to the bottom of the nozzle. The nozzle is usually plastic. We're not so comfortable kashering, as we'll get into when we talk about it. Dishwasher. We don't usually we don't kasher plastic unless we really need to. So how much is a new kumkum, whatever we call those hot water urns? How much does that cost? Buy a new one for Pesach. That's a great thing. If you don't usually, if you don't fill up your oatmeal that way, so that's really the only chametz that you're exposing your hot water urn to on an annual basis. Other than that, it's really tea, it's coffee. That's not chametz. So technically speaking, just clean the nozzle. You could use the same one without really kashering it. Just empty water into it so the nozzle gets very hot, just in case. But you could technically use the same hot water urn. But again, if you do use it with the oatmeal filling up directly, best to just put it away and get a new urn. Okay? Electric mixers, blenders, food processors, all those wishy-washy things that are very hard to clean, get new ones for Pesach. Put them away, potentially with your hot water urn, put them in a box, put a piece of tape wherever you sell your chametz, and get new ones for Pesach. Or, even better, just do without them for a week. Actually, no. I don't know how you make potato cocoa. You need potato cocoa, right? So get a new one for Pesach. Okay, fine. The same as with the barbecue. I'm just mentioning in this list things that we don't advise kashering. It's doable, but it's hard to do. It's dangerous, and if you don't have a blowtorch, it's impossible. So some people say, "Oh, get new grates for Pesach. I can use the same barbecue." The cavity, just stay away. You buy those chad pami, those one-time barbecue. Buy 5 of them, 6 of them before Pesach. One-time use barbecues. That's what you use for the week. Really best. We don't advise to kasher a barbecue. Technically, it's doable, but it's just hard and relatively dangerous. Utensils like silverware or becher. Someone asked me today about their becher, the Friday, what they make kiddush with. So all those things are very easily done. Again, some people have their separate silverware for Pesach, which you could, but it's really easy and very doable to kasher your silverware for Pesach. You wait 24 hours since the last time they were used for hot. You make sure they're clean, and then you boil a pot of water until it gets a big pot of water. It could even be a chametz pot as long as it hasn't been used for 24 hours. Usually it's easier just to use your kosher Pesach pot. Some people feel uncomfortable or putting my chametz kalim inside my Pesach pot, but you're kashering it, so it's okay. Again, you wait 24 hours, you turn the pot on high until it's ma'aleh babuos, which means it's like a rolling steady boil, and then you put the utensils in. Inevitably what will happen is the boil will subside because you just introduce all this relatively cold metal. So then you leave it in there until the boiling regains itself, okay? And then you empty the water and you leave it in, you allow it to stay in there, so I'll just say 5 minutes or so, and then you empty the water and you fill the pot up with cold water, and then everything that was in that pot is kashered. Clear? Easy? Okay. The fridge, what do? You clean and you wipe it. You wipe it, especially if there's some mechanism in the door, like an accordion or something, you try to clean that. Hard to clean, you spray it with a caustic spray, some chemical spray. That's always a good mechanism for those places, as I mentioned before. And then you line the shelves. You line the shelves with something basic. It could be tinfoil, it could be paper towel. You don't have to get every little millimeter. Again, everything's cold in the fridge. It's just a nice little chumrah that we have, that we all grew up with, that you line, you cover the shelves of your fridge, and that's A-okay. It doesn't have to be double covered. It's just to make a separation for Pesach. Your food is there all year round, so it's a nice thing to do.
Interfering with the movement of the air.
By putting something on the shelves? I don't think so. Slicha. You're just putting a paper towel on the shelves before I put my food on the shelf.
I understand.
I don't think it interferes. I think it's fine.
Your shelves have holes in them.
No fridge.
You don't have holes anymore?
Oh, the shelf.
The shelf, it's a piece of glass. So on top of the glass, I put paper towel, I put tin foil, I put, some covering. No problem. Now, yeah.
But do you have to worry about the glass becoming Chametz in the refrigerator?
No, not really. That's why
It's
I'm,
cold, right? So-
right, that's why I'm emphasizing it. It's a nice thing to do. You keep food there on Pesach, during the year. It's a nice separation. It's a good thing to do. I would call it a
But if you
minhag.
don't,
Nothing is trade. Nothing is, yeah, exactly. Now, I always mention this because people are baffled when I mention that you could do this. Every year, people are baffled. What you could do is, let's say you have chametz, your chametz mustard. Mustard itself is kitnios, but you use it. You obviously, even if you want ketchup, you have to buy new ketchup. Anything that was open, condiments before Pesach that you've used is not okay to use on Pesach, right? So let's say you just opened a mustard or a ketchup last week. You don't want to throw it out, so you sell it. So you could put it in your downstairs fridge and sell your whole fridge. That's no problem. But let's say you only have one fridge. You could take one shelf of your fridge that you're using on Pesach, or on the door is a very good place to do it. Put all your chametz there. Put like a garbage bag over it so you can't visibly see it. It's just nice not to see it. And just have a piece of tape that you put on, say sold, machur lagoy, sold to non-Jew. And then you write on when you sell your chametz, you mention that there's chametz in the fridge. And you could literally every day of Pesach open and have that section of your fridge that was sold. No problem doing that. You could do it downstairs, wherever your second fridge is. You could do half of that fridge, no problem. That's all doable. And you could also do that in your freezer, which is we all have things, I think, in the freezer which we don't necessarily want to throw out. Okay, that is that. Next, dishwasher. Okay, dishwasher. Some people don't know if they can kasher their dishwashers. So it's not recommended because the main holdup is that we don't like kashering plastic. Plastic is a modern invention. It wasn't around in the times of the Gemara, so we don't really know how to relate to it. We just don't know what to do with it, really. So it happens to be the OU does allow kashering for plastic, bishas atchak, in extenuating circumstances. So again, I'm not going to now say how to kasher dishwasher, but if you do feel that you really need to, you'll be up so late washing dishes, you have tons of family over, you could email me, you could text me, you could call me, and I'll tell you how we could kasher a dishwasher, and I'll talk through with you if we conclude that your circumstances is considered a case of real necessity where the dishwasher should be kosher. That's that. Tablecloths, towels, and oven mitts. Oven mitts, don't use. Put them away, get new ones for Pesach. Your mamash touching hot food and they're hard to clean. Fine. Tablecloths and towels, anything which is not vinyl. In other words, it's cotton. It's something which is 100% natural. So then you put them on a hot wash in your washing machine, detergent on the hot setting, on the hottest setting that you have, and then you could use them for Pesach. Tablecloth that works for, towels that works for, anything like that, okay? Again, some people just have them separate, which is great. Anything you could have separate, I guess, is better and nicer, but those are, if it's vinyl, if it's not natural, then it can't be kosher. Tablecloths, towels, they have to be put away. That is that. Any questions about the kitchen? Because I just finished the kitchen section. We went utensil by utensil. The rest of your house we koshered, we cleaned for Pesach in 3 hours, and your kitchen I think we just did in 4 hours maybe, right? Okay, there's a lot of schlepping. You need to have a schlepper. Because all your things that I said, put away for Pesach, it takes, or you put drawers or cupboards in your kitchen that you could tape up with all your chametz stuff and put a piece of tape and say sold. You could bring stuff downstairs in boxes in a corner and write sold, right? So that takes a lot of physical exertion, but the actual kashering, utensil by utensil or appliance by appliance, we just covered everything, and everything in itself was really not too bad. Yeah.
I'm just curious about the times that you were saying. So, like you said, turn on the oven instead of self-clean.
Oh,
to the highest.
right.
You said an hour.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like, it sounded like it was coming off the top.
Yeah, around it. Yeah. If you called me and said, Rob, it was 59 minutes.
No, but I mean.
Do I have to do it again?
What is it,
No.
1 hour at 5:50?
At the highest setting that you have.
But where
But
did
you
the-
let it preheat first before you start clocking the hour.
Where did the hour come from?
So really,
Because what if you
Yeah.
cooked a roast, or and you cooked it for 2.5 hours, turkey for 3
Right,
hours?
right.
Don't you want to have it on for as long as the longest you've cooked for?
So first of all, thank you for sharing your turkey recipe with us. I've heard about it.
I'm American.
I've heard about it, and yeah, okay. But the time spent once we get the top heat, the time spent on the top heat doesn't matter. Okay, from a kashering perspective. In other words, the internal temperature of the metal that we're kashering, if we're getting to that, if the maximum was, let's say, 550, which probably isn't because, okay, whatever. Let's say it's 550. So once it hits 550, it's kashered essentially immediately, even if it had in its history spent with chametz on that high heat for longer. So that doesn't matter. The reason why I say an hour is because when your oven clicks to 550, I'm preheated, it doesn't necessarily mean that the inside of the grates, the inside of the walls, the deepest recessions of the thickest part of the metals that are part of your oven already reached its highest heat. So I just want to leave it there for an hour to make sure that everything is getting to the top potential temperature that it could have ever gone to. That's the idea. Okay? Yes.
The instant hot water thing, that's in the sinks.
Yeah.
Are those
Good. Instant hot water. Excellent question. So there, everything is metal, not plastic. So what you could do is, even if you do have a propensity to use it, let's say with oatmeal, whatever. So what you could do is you turn it on, you clean it really well, wait 24 hours, and then you turn it on, and you let it just empty boiling hot water out for a minute or two. Just let it go to make it get it to its maximum temperature. We could also do either at the same time or after, if you're able to flip it upside down, which most of them you can't, right? But if you're able to, then you flip upside down and you take the kettle, the same mechanism that we use for the countertops and your sink, and you pour it over it while it's hanging upside down. Alternatively, what you could do is you could take your actual kettle while it's boiling and you lift it up. So the bottom of the swan is now in the boiling water. So you do that, and you let hot water go through it for 60 seconds, a minute and a half, and you could continue using it on Pesach. Not on Yom Tov. Most of them you can't use on Yom Tov or Shabbos, right? Yom Tov you could, not Shabbos, right? But just from a kosher perspective, that you could kosher for Pesach with that.
and the faucet from the sink?
So, okay, good. Yeah, excellent. So faucet, the same exact thing that I just said for the hot water applies to the faucet, which means again you clean it very well. Again.
Isn't it a little plasticky in there?
Yeah, but again, so because we're okay. First of all, the bottom of the faucet, unlike that it has real chametz, it's more just astringency. Unlike the dishwasher, right? So this is a plastic that we don't really need to kosher, but we'll do it anyways. Some people will definitely tell you to buy a new faucet head or buy a new plastic thing and replace it with Pesach. You don't have to go that far though. From a halakha perspective, you could again clean it well, turn it upside down, take the opportunity to clean it, wait 24 hours, and then most faucets you could turn upside down and you pour the kettle over it. Don't burn your hand, but that's how to do it. Or you could take the kettle that's boiling and lift it up into that also works. Okay? And again, it's considered b'shas adchak to start buying a new faucet just for Pesach, but again, it's also because the faucet isn't something which really, really needs to be koshered. It's like an added chumrah astringency that we do. So we're okay with the plastic piece in there. Anything else? In the kitchen? Okay. A quick word on cosmetics. Growing up, everyone went crazy. Everything, deodorant, everything needed to be kosher Pesach. There's everything is okay for Pesach except for two things. Anything that you directly put in your mouth, for example, or on your lips. So like the only cosmetic is maybe lipstick and just take off the top layer. That's a nice chumrah. You don't really need to do it. Everything else, makeup and deodorants, are all okay. Liquid deodorants happen to have something called denaturated alcohol. Not all of them. You can check online, CRC, OU, and the liquid deodorants, the spray deodorants, as long as it doesn't have denaturated alcohol, it's fine for Pesach. If it does have it, so just best not to use that brand of deodorant, but any solid or gel, those are all fine because they're not edible. Medicines, never stop a medicine because you're unsure if it's kosher Pesach. But the general rule is anything which is a non-chewable, in other words, it's not designed to have taste, and it's a medicine, is always okay for Pesach. If it's a swallow pill, doesn't have a taste, and it's a medicine that gets prescribed by a doctor, it's okay. Chewables and or vitamins is more complicated, because vitamins, I mean, unless a doctor tells you to take the vitamins every day, and if you miss a week, you're in trouble, it's considered vitamins. You're more voluntarily putting them in your mouth, and you have to make sure they are kosher LaPesach. Again, all of the lists, CRC, OU, they all publish a list of vitamins that are okay, medicines that are okay, etc. And that really is, I have a whole list of like things that don't need a hechsher, you could buy without a hechsher, milk and eggs you buy before Pesach. But all these things are nowadays are so clear in the lists, in the websites, so I'm not going to go through all these different products that don't need a hechsher before Pesach. You just honestly, you could type into Google, or type in, I should not Google, but the CRC app. Get the CRC app. It's an unbelievable app. OU has one too, but the CRC's app is the best. It gets updated in real time. There's a section Pesach, and you can literally type in, someone asked me yesterday, does applesauce need a hechsher for Pesach? Guess what I did? I opened up my CRC app, and I typed in applesauce, and it says requires kosher, proper kosher Pesach supervision. So if you type in nuts, it'll tell you what type of nuts need kosher Pesach, what type of nuts don't. Frozen fruit, all these questions that we have when you go shopping for Pesach, literally go with your phone and have the CRC app open, because there's a lot of things that don't need a special kosher Pesach symbol on it, and could save a lot of time and effort and obviously money by knowing what you could just buy from the regular aisle. Okay? Any other questions?
Any cosmetic, then you're saying, that doesn't have alcohol in it?
It's okay.
So for example,
Perfumes. So perfumes also sometimes could have this denatured
alcohol. Right?
Denatured alcohol, exactly. But anything that doesn't have is fine. Exactly. Okay? Good? Any other questions? Means we covered everything.
Can you start the Seder at 5 o'clock? Because the baby will be present.
Mm-mm. Put the baby to sleep. Yeah, I know it's hard. Especially this year, it's late. I'm embracing and validating that the time is difficult. But because the Kadesh is part of the 4 cups. That's the first of the 4 cups. And you have to fulfill the mitzvot of Pesach when it's actually Pesach, which means that Seita Kochavim. I don't have the time off the top of my head. We definitely will publish it in our schedule, but you have to be able to, you can't start the Seder because the beginning of the Seder is Kadesh. You can start singing that song and calling people to the table. In my house, easy, a half an hour before the time, because by the time everyone gets there and in place, and it's time to say Kiddush, it takes 20 minutes or so, right? But by the time you get up there and you say the Kiddush, it needs to be after Tzeitar Kochavim. Or at Tzeitar Kochavim. Good? It should be a beautiful Pesach for all of us. I hope that the prescriptions over here were easier than you thought, because it is definitely a lot of work, but it shouldn't be overwhelming. One thing I see we didn't discuss is pets and feeding your animals. If you have a dog and you're not sure what to do, feel free to reach out. But again, the CRC app has a list of all the kosher Pesach animal foods, and dog foods, and cat foods. So if you ask me, I'm asking CRC. Happy to be the middleman, no problem doing it, but I'm revealing my secrets right now. My secret is that I don't have every single dog and cat food memorized. Okay? Guilty as charged. With that, I wish you all a Chag Kasher V'Sameach. Next week, same time, we'll discuss ways and ideas to make your Seder more exciting, more fun, and more meaningful. Everyone have an awesome week.